What's up, everybody? It's LG Doucette here. You're listening to The First Mint, a podcast where I talk about NFTs and the world of Web3. The podcast comes out every Monday morning and occasionally on Wednesdays. If you like this content and you want some more, feel free to visit our Twitter page at The First Mint. All right, so who here actually uses Instagram? I mean, I still kind of use it, but I will have to admit that the last couple weeks, or I guess the last couple months, have been kind of painful since I think they changed the algorithm. It gives me all these terrible posts from like other people that I don't follow that's trying to get me to follow. And it's just been kind of painful lately, honestly, to be on Instagram. It's one of those things that I think most people like sometimes delete from their phones or contemplate deleting from their phones because they find themselves kind of scrolling endlessly, getting FOMO that other people, especially right now, it's summer, other people are having like barbecues or going on cool hikes and you're just kind of sitting around watching TV or whatever. Anyways, last week, there's a point to this, trust me. Last week, the news broke that Instagram and Meta and Facebook and whatever that whole company is now was going to be integrating finally certain NFT wallets, including Dapper Wallet, which is what, as you know, NBA Top Shot, NFL All Day, all these other projects being built on Flow are built on. And that surprisingly, and I'll explain why it was surprising, pumped the Flow token. It pumped it by 40%. It had been laying around like 180 US and it pumped now Sunday afternoon to like 260. So like a 40 to 45% increase in the token, which I thought, like I said, was a little bit weird because we already knew like months ago that Dapper Wallet and Flow was coming to Instagram. We didn't know it was imminent. And to be fair to the pump, some users were seeing, it was like a small select group of users were already seeing a Dapper Wallet integration in the Instagram app. It's not on mine. I tried updating. There was nothing there. But some people were already seeing. So the announcement from Mark Zuckerberg that they would be implementing was immediate. It was starting right away. But still, I found the pump of the Flow token to be kind of strange because I was like, we knew this. And if you go to like the Flow ecosystem site, it lists all the partners that are coming. It has Instagram, it has YouTube, it has OpenSea, like it has all these other integrations that we haven't seen yet, but that clearly have been negotiated in the background. And for something like Instagram, which yes, Instagram is massive, like it's a massive app. Instagram's not exactly on the up though. So I've been really curious since then, why did the token pump? So today's episode is going to be about the Flow token. We're going to talk about where the token is at, what it's being used for, and the biggest question, where it might go. And also for us as, I guess we'll just call ourselves degens. I don't know what we really are, but we'll go into that in a minute. What the Flow token is, how we should categorize it as something that maybe is part of our portfolio or something that a lot of our NFTs are built on. And before we get into it, I'm just going to tell you right now, we are not currently affiliated with Flow. We did help run Flow Fest last year. I did do like a daily show talking to different Flow projects, but as of right now, we are not doing anything with Flow. We do chat with them. We do keep in touch with them. We want to know what's going on with them. But everything I'm going to say in this show is literally based on personal experience. It's based on literally reading like the white paper of the Flow token, doing research on Google, looking at Roham's tweets, whatever. I know that we cover Flow a lot. We cover a lot of their apps and their projects. It's where most of the projects that we follow are at. What the most important part of Flow is to me, and why I wanted to do an episode, I guess, kind of dedicated. But this is going to be dedicated to the price of the token, which is something that I think most people are going to be kind of interested in now. The reason I'm dedicating an episode to Flow is that it's supposed to be a consumer-friendly blockchain, which is really at the core, like why I started the First Mint and why I started my journey into crypto and all this, is that I think there's a lot of potential for blockchain and crypto to be used by normal people every day. So I want to support those endeavors, right? Regardless of semantics, let's say. So Flow, a consumer-friendly blockchain, trying to do a lot of great stuff into the future, along with many other competitors as well, right? Like we know that that's kind of the rat race right now, especially in the bear market. It's the time to build. We know that Solana is trying to do the same thing, and a lot of the L2s like Polygon and Immutable X are also trying to be that, let's say that blockchain of choice. And the real question is, if we think that something like Flow is going to be the blockchain of choice, should we be buying the token? This is the First Mint. Before we really start, and I know I had a 5-minute long intro, I just want to say that tokenomics in crypto are really hard. As a commoner, as a simpleton, let's say, reading white papers is hard. For most people, even the stock price of a company, like a company like that's been around for 50 years, is a little hard to understand sometimes. So bear with me and also be patient with yourself in trying to understand the complexities of cryptocurrency tokenomics, because every token is different. Some of them, you don't even know if they're going to survive. You never really know what's real and what will be delivered on. So be patient with me and also with yourself. So I find these types of tokens like Flow to be really fascinating, especially from the standpoint of an investor or trader, which is what I guess I consider myself and all of us to be, or I guess to give it a simpler, more common term that we use, a degen. Sure. These types of tokens are like 4 different things in one. One, they're kind of like a stock, right? And especially in terms of the movement of the token, like we documented in the intro, it's like when there's news that's good, token price go up. When there's news that's bad, token price go down. When new supply is issued, new stocks are issued, typically goes down because there's more supply. And like stocks, early investors get access to it before the public does and get to sell when it does go public. So it is kind of like a stock, but it's also a commodity. Except we don't know which commodity will win, right? We don't even know if it's going to work that way. We don't even know if one day there's going to be just one big central blockchain that we all use, or if we're all just going to use different blockchains and they're all going to be interoperable, which is supposed to be the dream, but we don't know if that'll happen. But this type of chain, this type of token, maybe is kind of comparable sometimes to something like copper or cobalt or coffee or oil or something like that, right? It's something, blockchain is something we're going to use to do lots of other stuff. And we don't know which resource will be the winning one or the one that we want the most. It's a stock, it's commodity. It's also security language, which is a term I think maybe I just made up. But at the core, blockchain is supposed to be about security. It's supposed to be about reliability. It's about all these different mechanisms like proof of stake, proof of work that are supposed to be more reliable than the way we do things now. A 3-term ledger system that is immutable in a sense. Like it cannot be faked, or it's harder to fake than our current systems. And again, we don't know which of these types of security languages are going to be the best. So it's kind of like trying to bet on a technology. Like, do you think that motherboards for computers are a good investment? Do you think glass for cell phones is good? Do you think security software is good? It's a mix. You know, it's a tech as well on top of the commodity and stock price. And the fourth thing that these types of tokens are philosophies. They're ideologies. Just like all of crypto, the decentralized world, empowerment to the artist, the consumer, the people, fewer middlemen, more capital to small interest groups, and the internet of value, enabling people to develop and exchange items of value within the internet. All these things that are like, yes, this is what blockchain is. Can this token do it the best? Will it live up to these things the best? Because that's also something it's often highly judged on, right? It's hard to find a comparable for what something like the Flow token is, especially as a degen like we are. Inevitably, what we want is that we want to bet on the right one, the one that's going to do all 4 of these incredibly well, and that's so hard to predict. The flow of news, not the token, but just the general ebbs and flows of news of crypto day to day is a lot kind of like the stock market, right? Like, for example, one day Solana is the greatest thing to ever happen. The next day, 8,000 wallets have been hacked, or like the chain is down for 48 hours or some shit like that. It's so hard to predict. It's so challenging at this point in time to nail what we think is going to be good. Even think of some of our last couple episodes. Think about our Wolf of Wall Street's episode with Scott Melker, right? He's talking about, just put some Bitcoin and some Ethereum and then a bucket of alts because it's so hard to say which one's going to be the winner. And it's even harder with something like Flow that is new and doesn't quite line up with those core beliefs of crypto, with that philosophy. It's not there yet. I'm not saying it won't get there, but it's not there. Things like Flow and Solana, they're not truly fully decentralized yet, right? Like not all the apps are there yet. Some of them are still in beta. Like, can you take your NFL all day moments and take them elsewhere as an NFT? No, you can't. You have to keep them there. They're barely what would qualify as an NFT now. That's now, right? So it's hard to say what the future is. And since these are all kind of startup ventures too, it's like we're just kind of sitting there listening to the team and the founders, hoping that what they're saying is true. Because, and I'm not saying this personally towards the Flow team, we don't know. We don't know as consumers, as degens, what will be true. So with all that in mind, let's talk about Flow. Now, it had its pump this week after its integration with Instagram. And we know that there's other stuff coming. Let's talk about what we know, right? We know that there are integrations across the board coming. It's on Coinbase. You can trade it on Coinbase, which is something that was long awaited. And that we know, or at least according to the website, it's coming to YouTube. And more importantly, it is coming to OpenSea. And that's something, the OpenSea thing, that's something that's been promised since almost since when I joined, almost 2 years ago. So still waiting on that. And I think that would be a huge boon to all the NFTs on Float to be on OpenSea. The question I'm wondering, and you're probably wondering too, is will the token go up or down? How much will we be airdropped? Because we know that there's a massive airdrop or a truckload coming to each Dapper wallet owner sometime soon. And of course, should we hold this long term if that's something that we're interested in? Is this a portfolio piece? What else do we know about Flow? We know that they're well lined up to keep building. There's a massive fund for Flow, 725 million committed to an ecosystem fund for people to come in and pitch the team and put together proposals and go build tools, NFT projects, whatever, to use stuff on the Flow blockchain. We've seen a few of these projects take shape even in our own kind of community, right? We've seen the Moment Nerd and John Boy Beats, two great people building stuff in the Top Shot ecosystem. We've seen them combine for something called Momentum Labs, and they've dipped into that fund. That's one of the only examples I know so far. We also know that Flow is one of the blockchains of choice for a lot of entertainment and sports. Obviously for sports, we see a lot of sports licenses on Flow, but also for some of the entertainment stuff. We've seen in the last couple months a lot of free NFT claims for specific IPs, right? There was the Billboard Awards one. What else did we have? We had, I'm just pulling up my list here. There was a one football one that we just posted on First Mint the other day. That was some kind of free football NFT. I don't really know what it does. There was a Bleacher Report, NHL one during the playoffs. There have been these interesting little use cases of Flow being used as a free claim, as a brand's first little dip, a first little toe in the ocean of NFTs. And of course, like I said, a huge bevy of sports licenses, not just the products that there are, but AFL, La Liga, the cricket one that came out a while ago, and probably tons more coming. We know that there are tons of people building on Flow, lots of great apps. We've seen stuff even prior to this ecosystem fund. We know that there's Floaty from MBL, which is for lending and borrowing Top Shot moments. We know that there's Float, which is proof of attendance on Flow. We know of Gaia, right, which is an awesome marketplace. Also, the creators of Ballers, and they have tons of other PFPs now in the marketplace. Music is there. There's Record Shop and Sturdy. There's a Metaverse and Matrix World. There's all this stuff that was built around Top Shot, right? So Flow as the technology, as a blockchain that people are building on, and that is attracting brands, yes, probably a high grade, right? But what about the actual token? That's what we want to talk about. All this stuff being built, that's cool. But what about the token? At the end of the day, someone like Roham will tell you probably, hey, it's not about price of the token. But listen, we're degens. We want to know about the price of the token. So let's take a look over 2 years ago now at the Flow token white paper. And if this is severely outdated, I'm sorry, but this is all I could find. It's based, I think it was written sometime just over 2 years ago in the spring of 2020 or early summer 2020. And it basically breaks down. And if you read our newsletter, I'm going to link it in there. It pretty much breaks down the tokenomics of Flow and how many tokens are being released over time and when. This is very standard for tokens that come out for their white paper and how that works. So this is normal in crypto. And again, there's a lot of stuff in here, even reading it, I didn't really understand, but I'm going to do my best. So starting, I think in September 2020, which is when there was a public Flow token sale, 1.25 billion Flow tokens were created. Okay? And there's a graphic. If you look at the newsletter, there's a graphic here that I'm talking over. Of those 1.25 billion tokens, 20% are going to the Dapper Labs team, 18%, or just to Dapper Labs, sorry, to their treasury, 18% to the development team, 11.1% to large backers, 8.9% to small backers, 13% to the community sale, and 29% to the ecosystem development. So let's go through those one by one. The large and the smaller backers, which makes up about 20%, that was to reward or to go to investors who had put in a $24.6 million round of funding back then. And that was a lot of the same investors that we're seeing now is like A16Z, Union Square Ventures, and those are some of the bigger ones. And there were some of the smaller ones, which were like, NBA stars like Andre Iguodala and stuff like that. And some other famous investors like Bill Tai, who's the chairman of On-Chain Monkeys, a different project. So 20% of the token going to those groups with a 24-month vesting and a 2-year cliff, which I think is over, or it's ending sometime soon. I don't know if those backers are necessarily planning to sell those tokens, but I would say that time of where they have to hold it is ending around now. I don't know. It's not clear when those tokens were issued, whether it was like in May 2020 or September 2020. What did happen in September 2020 was the community sale, which is 13% of the token. And I remember this very specifically. Tokens, I think, were being sold at like 10 cents. There was a limit on how many you could buy. You had to be an exchange where you had to be KYC'd. I think it was CoinList, and you couldn't actually buy them if you were Canadian, which was really awful for me. I think you can do it if you're Canadian or American. It was only a specific country. So that was really awful, but those were bought 2 years ago during the community sale, and I think those had to be held for at least a year. So that already unlocked last September 2021. Development team, right? That's 18% going to the development team. That's basically given to employees. And again, I'm just everything here, just to be clear, I'm kind of paraphrasing what's in the white paper. 18% given to employees with a 3-year vesting and a 1-year cliff, which basically means that after a year, they can start selling some of them, not all of them, but then they can start sell a few of them like every month after a year, basically. So that 3 years, we're 2 years into it now. Dapper Labs, 20% of it, holding in their treasury. That's pretty much all it says, that it just goes to Dapper Labs has this massive war chest of just tokens and NFTs or whatever else they have there. They're holding it. I doubt that is going to be unlocked anytime soon. And the last one, the ecosystem development, 29%, 350 million tokens put aside for that. Now, again, I don't know how many of those tokens are being used as part of this flow fund, but I will tell you, I'll give you a few quotes directly from here. And it says that some of the recipients include entrepreneurial support organizations, nonprofits, and academic institutions, including Berkeley, Purdue, UC Davis, and Rochester Institute of Technology. These groups share flow credits with their communities and broaden accessibility, which I'm assuming is that, Flow has some deals with different institutions for people to develop, to use Cadence, their programming language, and to be given Flow tokens or use Flow tokens to develop that on. And again, this is a 2-year-old paper, so maybe that's changed now. The section also emphasizes, and I quote, that the Flow ecosystem development programs are designed to reward the efforts of a decentralized community building sustainable value, not speculation. As a result, Flow tokens distributed through these programs in the first year will be subject to lockups and transfer restrictions that expire no sooner than the first unlock date applied to early backers and the team. So that 29% of ecosystem development, we don't really know what it's been used for in the last 2 years. Maybe a lot of it was reserved for this current fund. It's hard to say, but either way, it sounds like most of those tokens at this point now, considering that a lot of different investors and stuff have had their tokens unlocked or are unlocking now, that a lot of those tokens are available. So that in the white paper is what was labeled as phase 2. There was also a phase 3, which discussed staking rewards, which was mainly for people that are validators, so people that are running nodes that help support the chain, but I think also for people that are actually staking the token, which you can do right now. You can actually stake the Flow token in an app called Blockto, which they were a big supporter of First Mint Fest a year ago, and you can actually stake it there to the tune of like 8.87, I think, percent APY, not APR, APY yield. So that includes your yield. That includes the tokens that you are being given. You can go and do that. So those tokens, after kind of like reviewing this white paper a little bit, those are new tokens being created. So those are not part of the 1.25 billion. They are actually new tokens being created. And you're probably wondering how many new tokens are being created as part of the staking rewards. And it actually kind of says that in this white paper. It has kind of like a nice little chart showing month 0 and then all the way up to month 48. So kind of like a 4-year timeline that shows when these tokens unlock and what becomes what, basically. And it shows that the initial supply is 1.25 billion, and after 4 years, it's 1.4 billion. So basically, an extra 150 million tokens being created as part of these staking rewards. And then I don't know what after that. I don't know if there's more tokens to come. It doesn't really say. So where are we in this timeline? As per this, I think would be around month 23 or 24, which as per this chart that I'm looking at, would have about 600 million tokens in circulating supply and a total supply of almost 1.4 billion. So about 44% of tokens that are out there. And that number is very important, right? There's been a lot of mumbo jumbo about this stuff. Maybe you didn't care about the last little bit, but that number is very important. It says that only about, doing the math here, about 44% of the tokens by this point would be in circulating supply. However, that figure I don't think is accurate. This is an old white paper. And if you go to some of the, online aggregates or the sites that you can look at tokens like CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap, it actually shows that for Flow, over 1 billion tokens are in circulation and that the total supply is actually about what it should be in this white paper, about 1.39 billion. So that means 74% of tokens are in circulation now. And think about it. If you collect things like Top Shot Moments or whatever, you often think probably about circulation supply, right? Like how many are out there? How many more are to come? So we have about, as per CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap, 74% of the total tokens are in circulation right now. So where does that leave us? It's kind of hard to find more information. And to be honest with you, I wish I'd had more time to make this podcast. I would have reached out to maybe Roham and all them, but at the same time, maybe from them we would get a bit of a more, guarded corporate answer. And I think it's worth looking at this from kind of an independent standpoint. Obviously, I'll say right now, before I kind of, wrap this up, that I don't have all the answers. Probably a lot of stuff here that I read that I don't fully understand. But as a degen, I have some questions. And I think there's some major questions we need to consider. If we're at 74% of token supply, what happens with that extra 26%, right? That development team vesting is 3 years. And that was 18% of the entire supply. So for the people that work at Dapper, that's 3 years. That's still a year away. That's a lot of tokens that might still be unlocked or that maybe aren't in circulation yet, right? Because I don't think that circulation count accounts for those locked tokens. Next question is, how much will Dapper wallet owners be rewarded with? And that's the golden question. That's what we've been wondering. That's what people on Twitter ask all the time. When is that going to happen? My question there is it going to come from new supply? Is it going to come from that remaining 26% of supply of tokens? Or is it within that 74 that's already out there? We just don't know where, right? And also within that question is a more important question, not just how much are we going to get, but will those tokens be immediately liquid, right? Think about it. If your Dapper wallet was given Flow tokens right now, what would you do with them? You can't trade them in Dapper. You can't trade them for USD or USDC. Not yet. Not that we know of. You'd have to send them to like a centralized exchange like Binance or Coinbase, or a decentralized one, I guess kind of decentralized like BlockToSwap. And even then, what would you do? Would you trade them for a stable coin? Can't trade them for USD unless you go to Coinbase. And even then, that's a bit of an extra workflow. You have to figure out your Coinbase flow address. That's a lot. That's a little bit of stuff for people to do. Or is Dapper about to drop its own exchange? I don't know about that. And within that question of how many tokens are we getting and also where are we going to be able to exchange them, how many of us are going to exchange them? And how much liquidity is going to be needed for that? Let's get a little bit hypothetical. Let's say there are 1 million Dapper wallets, and that's a number we've heard floated around. We know that there are definitely not 1 million active Dapper wallets. We know that number is probably closer to 400,000 that have ever done a transaction. Let's say at least on Top Shot. But for all intents and purposes, let's say there's 1 million Dapper wallets that are going to get tokens. And let's say 10% of the Flow supply is going to be part of this airdrop. That seems like a lot, but considering there's only 74% out there, let's assume that it's going to be new stuff. Let's add 10. So let's say this airdrop to Dapper wallets brings us from 74% to 84% of tokens released. It'd be massive. That'd be 140 million tokens, right? And let's say there's a million wallets, that's 140 tokens per wallet, which right now at current prices of Flow would be about $370. Let's say half of those wallets want to trade in that Flow for some USDC or USD. That would be about $184 million of Flow being traded for USDC or some kind of fiat, probably, I'm assuming. So that means the exchange or exchanges would need $184 million of liquidity, which I thought was going to be way too much when I was writing this. But then as I did it, I looked at the volume last week and realized that in one day alone last week, Flow did a $1.3 billion of volume. So there is liquidity out there. But where will this happen? Where will people take their Dapper Wallet Flow tokens and go and exchange them? And also, will they be able to? Are they going to be locked? I don't know. A lot of questions to consider. My personal theory, and again, this is not financial advice, I think people are going to dump those tokens. I think people are going to see Flow tokens, yes, for sure, maybe as like a cool investment or whatever, but they're going to see it as a stimulus. Every time we've gotten some Dapper, and the previous Dapper, infusions have been stimulus, very much so, people have gone to spend them. And putting in the Dapper wallet, man, people are going to want to spend that, but only if it's easy to exchange them. Only if they're liquid and easily done. So if people do dump those tokens, that could actually be a good buying opportunity, right? Especially considering that there's already almost 3/4 of the entire supply of this token out and only so much more to come, especially if these are new tokens being issued. That could be a good buying opportunity. But again, not financial advice because I've been wrong so many times. So please make up your own mind on that. For Flow, there's a long road to go. There's still tons of stuff missing to the ecosystem. We don't have like open data tools. We can't see how many new wallets have been made every day, how many total transactions, total NFTs bought on Flow. We don't have like a central marketplace like OpenSea that is familiar to people. We just have a bunch of different marketplaces. As a collector, as a degen, there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic, especially if you're still here during the bear market, right? The team is bringing in massive brands and partners, and they're clearly at the front of the pack on those big conversations. The tokenomics are still developing, so it's hard to gauge the token price. All the apps are developing heavily, which is great, and there's a core fan base. We're all still here. We're all still spending on Dapper stuff. But like I said before, we still don't really know what the major use case is going to be for people on blockchain. Is it just going to be like NFL stadium tickets after you go to the game? Is that it? Is that what we're doing? It could be anything. It might not even be NFTs. I think we all hope it will be. So do with that info as you will. And that is going to do it for us today, folks. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you're going to make some strong trading decisions based on that. But again, please, not financial advice. Please do your own research. There's probably a lot that I didn't cover here with Flow. So if you know more about Flow, any of the Flow employees listening out there, please, if there's extra info to add as an addendum, I'm very happy to do it. So please hit us up at The First Mint on Twitter or at LG Doucette. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The First Mint.